Chris Cuomo is an extremist, okay? He's a pro-Israel, pro-genocide extremist. I think he's a problem in the country.
There is a real enemy that matters so much more than every other contrivance. It hates both sides. It is coming for all of us. I realized it was time for a wake-up call when AOC, the member of Congress from New York, was hapless enough to call for impeaching Trump again. This time for doing something that led to a ceasefire.
Well, I do not echo what Chris Cuomo likes to echo there, which is this idea that AOC is an extremist, adding to extremism in America. Now, that extremism, according to Cuomo, has manifested in AOC's popularity within the Democratic Party. He also mentions, luckily, right-wing nationalism. He thinks that the pro-Palestinian movement is extremist. He thinks the tragic killing of 2 Israeli embassy staff members is the result of extremism in the country. He also mentioned the assassination of Brian Thompson. So look, there is extremism in the country that leads to people carrying out violent acts. And I am not in any way justifying those violent acts or co-signing onto that extremism. But I do want to break down more of what Cuomo had to say here, because he began this lengthy segment by criticizing AOC for pushing impeachment against Trump, which he believes was just intended to get attention. And then after he criticized AOC's record as a lawmaker, he then stated that Americans need to worry about extremism represented by white nationalists and, of course, pro-Palestinian student protesters. Here's the clip.
Our worry is not just about brown guys with beards screaming about Allah. Extremism has taken root among our own people, many of whom are brown with beards, by the way. It's not about how you look, it's about how you think, okay? Especially among our young people. We see them on both fringes. The #1 terror threat domestically for years has been, now you're probably thinking Muslims, wrong. Right-wing white nationalism. Now it has an equal opposite on the left with this perverse affinity for fundamentalists like Hamas. Globalize the intifada. We hear alleged Democrats questioning Israel's right to exist, saying the regime in Iran is a victim.
Okay, I'm getting real tired of the intentional lie that people who want Palestinians to live, to have the right to self-determination, to have their own state where they're governed without Israel controlling their water, their food, their everything, without settlers invading their homes, forcing them out of their homes. People who protest on behalf of Palestinians are not by default protesting in favor of terrorist groups, including Hamas. So what Chris Cuomo does, and it's intentional. I don't think he's doing it by accident. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's doing it intentionally. He is intentionally defaming the vast majority of protesters who look at what's happening on the ground in Gaza and they're disgusted by it, rightly so, because it is a genocide. Okay, you hear politicians in Israel's parliament flat out saying, we're gonna do whatever we want to the Palestinians and no one's even gonna care. And you know what? Sadly, in this country, it feels like those in positions of power don't really care. And so to hear Chris Cuomo fearmonger about the people who have enough of a heart to care about victims of Israel's genocide, it just absolutely disgusts me. Like I don't know why he's so obsessed with providing cover for Israel's bad acts, for their genocide, for their war crimes, but he does it all the time. And honestly, quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I shouldn't have to do endless throat clearing about how I do not agree with Hamas. I don't support Hamas. I thought Hamas's atrocities on October 7th were disgusting and that civilians must be protected at any and all costs. I don't need to do that constantly to bring up the fact that I believe Palestinians should also be protected, that Palestinians also have a right to live. This freaking clown, I can't, go ahead, Jake, go ahead. Yeah. I can't stand him. Honestly, on this issue, specifically the defamation toward protesters disgusts me.
Yeah, so I have a theory as to why he's doing that. I'll get to that in a second. So look, Yeah, well, we'll see. So number one, did he have some parts in there in that long spiel that were correct? Sure, as Anna pointed out, he rightly calls out the radical left. Not really rightly, because I call out the radical left, but the way that he did it is problematic, which I'll explain in a second. And the radical right, though, and he does say, hey, actually the number one source of terrorism domestically, as you just saw, there's white nationalists. So it's not, just to be fair, he does also call out the radical right. Okay, now, but when he gets to criticism of the radical left, if he said, hey, on culture wars, and he mentioned transports and a couple other, identity politics stuff, okay, fine. We could have a normal, rational debate about that, or we can get into histrionics or whatever it might be. But okay, that's at least something that we're familiar with, and a real topic of debate as to whether going maximalist is the right direction or not, et cetera. But
there's no equivalency. There's no equivalency. Putting those two groups in the same argument makes no sense. Okay, the transports thing, even if I think there's actually a sound argument when it comes to the critics, that is not the same or even close to equivalent to white nationalism or right-wing extremism. Are you kidding me right now?
No, I hear you, Anna. Absolutely, and I'm glad you clarified that. But he then does talk about Mangione, and someone on the left did celebrate him, right? And guys, whenever we say someone on the right or someone on the left, it literally means someone. It doesn't mean all of the left, it doesn't mean all of the right, okay? And then there was those idiots who, the guy who shot the Israeli staffers, et cetera. So unfortunately, there has now been violence on both sides. Yes, the majority of the violence is from the radical right. If you're from the right and you're catching feelings over that, go look at the facts, the statistics, and what the FBI says. If you want to say, oh, deep state, I don't believe anything, okay, well then we're never going to convince you anyway, because you don't care about facts. Okay, so those are the relatively okay, fine parts, right? But when you get into what the radical left is, in his mind, that's where he conflates things massively, right? So first of all, on AOC, well, you got to separate out the policies that are economic in nature and non-economic in nature. If you say, hey, some of AOC's positions in the past, like abolish ICE, doesn't poll that well, which is a point that Cuomo made, that's true, right? But you're then throwing in all of her economic policies in the same bucket, but the economic policies are actually super popular.
Yeah,
and that
it's
is
by design.
Exactly, Anna. And that is why I separate out the radical left culture war issues from the economic policies, because the economic policies are enormously popular. And what Chris Cuomo in this case, and almost all of the establishment media wants to do is, they want to confuse you into thinking they're all unpopular. So they go, oh, okay, transports, and that's why nobody wants Medicare for all. That's not true. Medicare for all polls at over 70%. And so paid family leaves at 84%. What's radical about that? And Bernie Sanders, AOC, Mamdani, et cetera, are all in favor of that. Their economic proposals are enormously popular, and honestly, mainstream media never, ever, ever admits that, because they want us to fight on culture wars and not focus on looking up, okay? Because the donor class wants to make sure that you don't do those super popular economic policies that are gonna help you. They only want economic policies that help themselves. And then the last part of it that he throws in is what Anna's irate about, and me too. I watched the whole segment, and the whole oh, Iran is coming, and oh my God, the protesters are pro-Hamas. Iran, Palestinians, terrorists, be afraid. I mean, and it's so ironic because in the beginning he's like, we shouldn't give in to fear mongering. And then like 60% of the segment was massive fear mongering about, let's be honest, Muslims.
Yep.
He said, hey, it's not about Muslims. And then he talked about nonstop Muslims. And hey,
let's
Chris,
talk about extremism.
Yeah.
No, let me jump in. Let me talk about extremism. Extremism is giving Americans no choice but to fund a genocide in Gaza. Okay, extremism is seeing what's happening on the ground in Gaza and saying that's totally okay. But what's not okay is that there are young Americans who are upset by it and are practicing their First Amendment right by demonstrating against it. That's extremism. Chris Cuomo is an extremist, okay? He's a pro-Israel, pro-genocide extremist. I think he's a problem in the country. Okay, he wants to talk about, oh, the left is extreme because of their stance on culture war issues. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Extremism is sitting idly by, or in the case of Chris Cuomo, loudly cheerleading a freaking genocide that is funded by American taxpayer money. That's extremism. Back to you, Cenk.
Yeah, so I agree. And so if he says he's worried about violence, now, brother, let me get this right. You're more worried about a chant on a college campus than you are about 56,000 dead in Gaza? Don't tell me that you're more concerned about the dead, because it's obvious that you're not. So you can catch all sorts of feelings about that, but I haven't seen you rant and rave about the 17,000 dead children. You want to talk about violence? Violence? The Israelis have been committing a genocide in front of all of our eyes. If you want to do cover for them and go, oh no, I am offended, and some people I know and my brother's donors are offended if you say something about Israel, and our fifis are more important than 17,000 dead kids. That's a ridiculous point to make. No, what Israel's doing is 10,000, 10 million times worse than any chant or anything that happened on in a rally on a college campus. By the way, when pro-Israel people came onto UCLA's campus and beat the living crap out of the peace protesters, I didn't see NewsNation or Chris Cuomo or mainstream media getting all upset and going, what the hell, these guys come in, start beating them with sticks and throwing explosives at them, etc. Oh no, it's Israel, right? Come on, keep it real, Chris, keep it real. Every day you do propaganda for Israel and you cover up 56,000 dead people. All of Gaza is destroyed. Do you have eyes? Do you have eyes? Have you seen all of Gaza destroyed? And you're saying the people protesting that are the real problem. There's a danger in America, people protesting Israel. No, the danger is that we've given over $311 billion to Israel, a genocidal government that is continuing to slaughter. They killed 103 Palestinians yesterday because they kill hundreds of Palestinians every day. And if you protest it though, oh, you're the extremist. No, being pro-genocide is extreme. So I don't know why Chris loves and defends the genocide of Israel, but I see him doing it every day, okay? And so my best guess is that his brother's donors are all pro-Israel. So probably the circle that they know are like, oh yeah, isn't it terrible that they're trying to stop the genocide? I mean, we have a right to defend ourselves by slaughtering their women and children. We slaughtered over 35,000 women and children. That's a stadium full of dead women and children. But Chris, go out there and tell everybody that's not a big deal. Don't worry about it, don't worry. Somebody's protesting on a college campus, tell them that they're the real enemy within. And that you should really be super scared of anyone who dares to criticize beloved Israel. No, Israel's not beloved. It's a government. It's a government. And governments sometimes do terrible, terrible things. And that is what the Israeli government is doing. And that is obvious to everyone except all the mainstream media reporters and anchors who are like, oh, news in, slight chant problem, giant problem, 56,000 dead, don't worry about it. Okay, yeah, we're in the news business. Remember everybody, you had to be pro-Israel, otherwise you get arrested and deported, yeah. Okay, keep it real. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.